Hello, everyone. Before we begin, as always, I want to remind you that my book of short horror stories called The Things That Happen at Night is available at the link in the description. And also down below, you can sign up for my twice monthly newsletter and read some free short horror stories over on Wattpad, written by yours truly. So if you want to check all those out, I'd appreciate it. Also down below, there are links to all my social media, and I hope you decide to join me on there. All right, let's get started. All right, so the book we're going to be talking about today is fantastic. It's called Whispers of a Gypsy by J.T. Patten. And this book does several things well. It is a shorter novel, a newer release also. And like I said, there's been a lot of horror this year, so a lot of these books that I've been finding that I think are just excellent, that I recommend to you, have kind of slipped under the radar. You know, it's hard for indie publishers and self-publishers to get noticed with all the big names writing all these awesome horror books, and I like to give special attention to those, especially when they're this good. This book really hits home because it has a fantastic main character. It has a protagonist that you don't read much about in horror books. It's a kid named Dwight. Dwight is mentally challenged. He was in an accident that caused him to be a neurodivergent, as is put in the book. And he has stunted mental capabilities, I guess you can say. And I thought that was a very bold choice for the author, because if you're dealing with a character that has real world implications like this and you get it wrong, well, it could be very, very bad for the author. You know, you don't want to get a character like that wrong. But he does such a good job of making Dwight such a full-fledged character, because it's not just his mental illness that the author talks about. He is not just a one-dimensional character, you know. He's fully fleshed out, and you'll see insights into his different personality traits throughout the book. He is a loving boy, is Dwight. He loves people. He's a very happy boy. He might be a little simplistic and a little bit over-optimistic, but he's a very loving child, and a character that I think we can all really get behind. But he is also abused by his other brother, who's a real brat. I'll just put it that way. This kid is horrible to him, and his father, who never has seen Dwight quite as normal as his other son because of his condition. But Dwight's grandfather dies at the beginning of this book, and you'll find out how. A tragic accident, but the brother and his father blame Dwight for causing the old man's death, and their anger and their abuse starts becoming more evident. They abuse him both verbally and physically, sometimes locking him in his room because his father cannot stand to see Dwight. Despite all this, Dwight overcomes that with a kind of acceptance, because he almost seems incapable of hating these people who are abusing him, choosing instead, you know, they're his family. He loves them. He wants nothing but the best for them, even though they become more abusive toward him. However, he has a helper in the form of an old man who lives in the town named Mr. Mortimer. And Dwight calls Mr. Mortimer his monster, even though Mr. Mortimer refers to Dwight as an angel. He sees Dwight for who he really is. He is special, but not special in the sense we would say, oh, that kid's so special. He actually sees that Dwight is something special. Dwight has something in him that needs to be cherished and nurtured and not abused. So Mr. Mortimer decides to be Dwight's kind of avenging angel, I guess you can say. And he does so in some very brutal and terrifying ways toward those that would seek to harm Dwight, even if it is his own family members. But the backstory of Mr. Mortimer is also equally amazing. And again, what I like about this book are these characters that are so well developed. Because Mr. Mortimer is of Romani descent. Romani? Yeah. Romani descent. And during World War II, he was in a concentration camp. And we will go back in time and find out that he had certain medical experiments performed on him by the Nazis while he was in this concentration camp. They did something to him that changed who he was on the inside, his cells, like his physical cells on the inside of him, as they were looking to make a super soldier, usually resulting in the death of the patient. But for some reason it took on Mr. Mortimer. And even though he is human, he is not immortal. He is not an unstoppable killing machine. He's not like, Jason or Michael Myers. But he does have certain unhuman qualities. For his age, he's extremely agile and extremely strong. Stronger than a man his age should be. And when he dispatches people, well, you'll find out he does so in a way that is unheard of for a man of his advanced years. Horrible and brutal ways in which he shows his almost supernatural strength. His body is also able to regenerate itself faster if he's wounded because of these experiments. And even though he's not going to live forever and he can be killed, he is under constant surveillance from different government organizations. People know who he is in these shadowy government worlds. And most people are aware that if you see him, you should be scared because he is a killing machine. And because he's taken Dwight kind of under his protective wing, that means Dwight's brother and father are not going to be immune from the vengeance of Mr. Mortimer when they decide to keep abusing Dwight in his home. And so this is part historical fiction and parts psychological horror. And there's enough brutal scenes for any horror fan, that you're just going to love it. You're just going to love it. And I always like books that deal with different cultural lore and legends. And in this case, they take some real world events that actually happen, and like any good author, you can tell his mind was working. Well, what if, even though in the real world these experiments failed, what if one of them didn't fail? What kind of person will we have? What kind of creature? And a lot of this book deals with the Romani Jewish folklore and legends and things that happened because of their internment in these concentration camps during World War II. And it's very effective. It really gets your mind thinking. And this is a great book because you'll have to determine for yourself if Mr. Mortimer is actually a monster or is he just an avenging angel. And where does Dwight fit into all that? The whole story is very effective, and of course I highly recommend it. Pick it up, Whispers of a Gypsy by J.T. Patten. I will leave a link down below if you want to purchase it on Amazon. And as I said before, check out all my links. They are in the description as well. And as always, I want to say thank you for taking some of your time, spending it here with me. I really appreciate you guys watching. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.